You are following along with the African Nutrition Society podcast. My name is Helena. Throughout the pre-conference school health and nutrition workshop, we've been discussing practical approaches to improving nutrition knowledge and nutrition practices among school-age children. And throughout the African Nutrition Congress, we have been discussing food security and food systems. And I have with me one, he said I shouldn't say high profile, but that's who they definitely are. So I have with me one of the high profile nutrition experts, Professor Steve Wootton. He is an associate professor of nutrition at the University of Southampton and holds an honorary appointment at University Hospital Southampton. With over 30 years of experience in human nutrition and research, he has contributed significantly to the field, particularly in clinical nutrition and public health. Professor Wootton has worked on various national and international projects, including collaborations with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and expertise spans nutritional assessment, body composition analysis, and nutrition-related disease risk. Notably, he was awarded an OBE for his services to nutrition and physical exercise in 2018. Professor Wootton, you are so welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I'm humbled to have you here. I think that our listeners, our viewers will be curious about OBE. Will you tell us more about that?
In the UK, the Queen and now the King has an opportunity every year to award honours to people that have made a service, a public contribution to life. And I was nominated and awarded an OBE and for my work on training doctors and training people in nutrition and in physical activity.
That's nice. Hope I get to enjoy some of these training more often. Anyway, you've been part of the pre-conference through to the African Nutrition Conference, and I would like you to share your insights and some of the key messages that you feel we should get to the general public.
It was a very, very busy 2 days.
Right.
There was a lot of talk, a lot of ideas going around, and eventually we got to a point where we had found common ground.
Okay.
And we identified a number of ways of going forward. And I'm not going to go into all the detail. The detail will be captured in a report which will be published later in the year. But I think there were some lessons to be learned from the meeting.
Right.
The one is that there's a clear benefit from implementing or intervening in a school setting to improve the nutrition well-being of children.
Okay.
Absolute. Clear evidence, clear activity, clear benefit.
Definitely. So in your opinion, generally, with all the discussions and in all your work, what does early nutrition, how does early nutrition impact cognitive development, and how can schools also contribute in these programs so that children can receive the right information?
So you've got two questions there, so I'll take the first one first. I think we know that the child, as they grow and develop, is very sensitive to nutritional insults. Their brain needs to grow and develop, and with that comes all the functions that are equally developed. But I think the critical thing is that over the first 4 or 5 years of life, that is when the brain is growing most rapidly.
4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years, and if we're not making sure that children are appropriately nourished during that period. But it doesn't stop there. That just tells us about the size of the brain. The brain continues to develop, and as we teach children and help them learn their way through life, their brain continues to develop. And it's not just a biological drive to enable the brain to grow and develop. School feeding helps us, helps with enrollment into school, it helps with attendance in school, it helps with learning in school. So it's two sides. One is the impact on the growth and development of the child, the biology, and on the other side is the impact that it has on a child's participation in learning. If you put those two things together and you get it right, the child will grow and thrive. If a child's growth and development is impaired, or their enrollment into school, or their attendance at school, or their learning in school is impaired, they will do less well. And that matters because that is the platform that enables the rest of their life. So that's why it's so important for us to invest in children at the early stages of their life.
Definitely. And so that said, what do you think are the major challenges that school-age children face?
The major challenges, one, getting to school and having a school program to attend. Schools offer a fantastic setting in which these interventions can take place. But you need to be able to have the money to buy the food, to prepare the food to give to the child. You need to have teachers who are appropriately trained and knowledgeable about these things. And the whole school environment needs to engage in making sure that children have access to food. The challenges are very real.
Right.
We know that in research settings we can demonstrate benefit. The challenge then is to make sure those benefits are available to all children, not just those that are being supported through research.
So we have learned that nutrition is very important, right? From in the previous interviews that we have done, we have to start early, from pre-pregnancy through pregnancy, and the school-age child. I mean, children are now forming behaviors, habits, and etc. What are the short-term and long-term implications of poor nutrition or children not getting optimal nutrition?
Well, what we now know is that as a young girl enters puberty and continues to develop, she will lay down body fat, she will increase her metabolic reserves in anticipation of pregnancy.
Right.
So it's really important that we look after our young girls through adolescence so that when they enter pregnancy, they are in the best nutritional state that they can be. Right. Simple example is iron. If they are anemic, as they enter pregnancy, they will become more anemic and they will have a baby that's anemic. So it's really important that we focus well before pregnancy. Then
can I interrupt?
Yeah, please.
You mentioned iron. This is a question that I've been longing to ask. Sometimes we focus on certain nutrients, and we also know that nutrients work synergistically. Yes. So how do our focuses on specific nutrients impact on the nutrition of children? Should we advocate for a balanced meal, or should we really hammer on some nutrients and
diets? I think where people have a diagnosed condition, so they have been screened and they have been tested and they have been shown to be iron deficient. It's very important we address that iron deficiency.
Great.
Where you're talking, so that's more of a clinical judgment. On the same side, you have a public health judgment. And I think the danger is that we mix up the two. So in public health, we want them to have all of the nutrients all of the time. And there is a danger that we become a little obsessed about some nutrients over others. And that means that you may have iron, but you may not have the vitamin C, you may not have the zinc, you may not have all of the other nutrients that we know interact with iron to influence its absorption and its utilization and the formation of red blood cells. So it's really important, you're absolutely right, it's important that we don't over-focus on one thing at the expense of other things.
Right.
The evidence of what I would call the food basket approach, providing food, is always superior to simply providing micronutrients alone.
Providing food.
Providing food and making sure that that food is sufficiently nourished, to ensure that the child gets the energy and the nutrients that they need.
It's more important than supplementing.
Well, they're all important, but you need to know when
to do what,
which approach to take
at any time. Okay, great. So, are there evidence-based practices that schools can implement to improve the effectiveness of school feeding programs and also to improve both health and academic outcomes?
I think there are some excellent studies out there, and I could spend the next hour going through one after the other. I think I would just simply say that there is good evidence. And in a research setting where you have lots of investment coming in to deliver the intervention, it's clear that you can bring about an improvement in the nutritional well-being of the child, and you can improve the outcomes of that child. The challenge is then taking that information and rolling it out to all children. Because that's when the practical constraints come in. The cost, the delivery systems, the organizational structures. In Ghana here, the Ghana School Feeding Program has been running now for some time, and the principles that it's working to are all evidence-based. And we know that if we can deliver that consistently and continually, it will benefit the child. The challenges, as we know in Ghana, are operational. And if we can get the operational bit right, then the chances are that we'll be better able to deliver what we need.
Definitely. And so you have also done a lot of work in malnutrition and also cancer. So what are some of the lessons that can be drawn from addressing malnutrition in school-age children, particularly in under-resourced communities?
I think we have learned a lot in malnutrition, in treating severe acute malnutrition in particular, by virtue of our experience. You will look in the literature and you will not find lots of randomized controlled trials, because it's unethical to do randomized controlled trials on children that are starving and sick. But what we have done is, over the years, we have built up an experiential learning. We have worked, tried and failed, tried and succeeded, and over time you accumulate a body of knowledge. And that's reflected in the World Health Organization's 10 steps to treatment. They are not difficult things, they are simple things done well, but you have to do all of it. And that means that you have to train people and help people understand why each and every one of those steps is important. You can't just jump in at step 7 and expect, you can't take shortcuts. So my learning from that has been, you have to understand what it is you're trying to do. You have to have I'm not going to use the word protocol, you have to have an approach, a pathway, a way of doing. And then what you have to do is make sure you do each and every part of that. And looking after each and every part of that has been shown to work tremendously well. Case fatality in children with severe acute malnutrition has fallen from 50% down to less than 5%.
That's a lot.
That's the greatest thing that you can ever see. However, keeping it below 5% means that you have to keep doing the same things. And one of the challenges is not all centres are as able. And when you go and look, as Anne Hill has done, at the different centres and how they practice the interventions, you find that they're not always consistent. So the message is, simple things done well, do them in the right order, and make sure you keep doing them and don't take shortcuts.
Simple things.
Simple things done well.
Do them the right way.
Do it the right way.
Consistency.
And making sure
money. All of this takes money. So how sustainable are these programs?
Keeping a child warm at night does not take money. Remembering to put a blanket on a child at night is not a difficult thing. Having regular feeding through the night doesn't cost money. It costs attention to detail. And I think one of the things WHO 10 Steps has taught us is that you can train people. My colleagues here in Ghana, Reggie Annan, Professor Annan, has demonstrated that you can train people here to do the 10 steps, and through the International Malnutrition Task Force projects here. And not only can you change their understanding, you can change their behaviour. They remember to do things. These aren't always expensive things. We're lucky that we do have ready-to-use formula, provided largely through the agencies, but at the same time, there's an emphasis on trying homegrown products.
Definitely.
In schools, finding homegrown solutions, which might be gardening clubs. It might be local farmers contributing to their society, their local community, by providing the food that they're not selling to market.
They are not selling to the market?
Well, you don't have, it may be that not all of the food they want to sell, they can sell. But if you share what you're doing and you work together, you can make a difference. And I think the 10 steps taught us it's a collective effort. Everybody has to sign up. Everybody has to do the same thing. Everybody has to work together.
Everybody has to sign up. Everybody has to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of learning for us today.
Simple things. No, but
the simple things.
I think it's important that they're not difficult things. One of the things I called for at this workshop was that we form a community, not of governments and policy makers, but at every local level, you form a community. And you work together to solve the problems.
Right.
You may not have all of the money, you may not have all the resources, but I think somebody had said, you have your muscles to help cleaning pots in the kitchen. You have your cooking skills to help prepare good food. There are lots of things people can do if they work together.
You have some staples, you don't have vegetables,
Yeah,
you can
so
barter trade.
Share, barter trade, share.
You have diversity.
But keep your children at the heart of your agenda. Because the children are the future, and if we don't support them now, countries like Ghana will never grow. They'll always be held back. So the investment is now, working together in communities. We can use social media, we can use the web to create platforms that allow us to talk to each other. So what you're doing in one place, I can learn from. And if you share it with me, I can take it and use it.
Right.
If you say, no, this is my way of doing things, then nobody benefits.
Teamwork.
Teamwork. And same in cancer. You asked me about cancer. We're doing a lot of work with children in cancer. Children will develop cancer just like adults develop cancer. And it's always very acute and very devastating. But if we don't look after them nutritionally during their treatment and after their treatment, even the best treatment will not work as well. And one of the big pushes that we have now is we're good at treating children with some very sophisticated medicine, but we still need to look after them when they're treated. So when they go home, that's when you need to put the effort in to make sure that they're going to continue to eat well. Because if we don't look after them during their recovery, they will go on to become adults with an increased risk of further cancers, diabetes, heart disease. So we're setting them up to fail. So we have to support them all the way through their experience, not just their time in hospital. And again, and that's why the schools and the families are so important. We can't rely on hospitals to do everything. We can't rely on governments to do everything. The only people we can rely on is each other.
We have each other, people, the simple things we do as a community, sharing, taking care of each other, looking out for each other are what matter, and they can help us improve our nutrition, the nutritional status of our children, help us inculcate good habits, change behaviors at the right time so that we can have great productivity in the future. This has been the African Nutrition Society podcast. Thank you so much, Professor Wootton, for joining us this morning. I believe that our listeners and viewers have taken a lot from this interview. Many thanks to our sponsors, especially CRS, for helping us put these interviews together. See you another time.